Now that the epoxy's set up, and I got the cover taken care of, that's going to secure the battery box. The next thing I usually do is I'll take the actual battery box cage itself, put it back in the plane, and I will screw this down into the battery box so I at least know where my centering is, so I can drill the hole for this and my 5 other screws. Now that I have the battery box fairly secure, I'll drill a tiny little pilot hole right here, and that's for the battery box latch, and that's one of these. I just use a finger drill, stick it down in there. This will get me at least the center of this, and then I'll come back with a bigger drill bit, whatever fits the size of that opening, and I'll drill that out. Then I'll go back in again, re-secure the battery box again with that flush, because as you can see it's bumped up right now. I'll go back in, drill that hole out, re-secure it, and then I'll put these 2 back screws in, and I'll put the 3 screws in front of here, and that's done. The next thing we'll do, and we'll get to that when we put in the electronics, is we have to modify the battery box to hold the new battery, which I'm using lithium lipos, and they don't fit in there, so we'll have to modify it to fit them. Now, if you're using stock equipment and you just want to stop here and have a stronger battery box, that's fine. If you plan on going to lipos and keep the stock stuff, I think Thunder Power sells a 1350 milliamp that fits in here perfectly. I'm flying anywhere from 1500 to 2200 milliamp, 15 to 2200 milliamp lipos, and I have to modify the battery box to make them fit. Okay, got the hole drilled, as you can see right there, which fits for that, and you can see it fits right down in there. Next thing we're going to do now, re-secure the battery box in there, drill all the holes for the new screws, and that'll be done. Using my finger screw drill again, it's just a matter of centering it in the holes here in the back and drilling them out. This is fairly simple. The wood's, it's a hardwood, but with a brand new nice sharp blade, it only takes a couple seconds to drill through. You don't want to press too hard because you don't want to poke all the way through, all the way down into the foam. Once you get these done, then you'll go to the front. Those take a little bit more time because you have to drill through the plastic, the nylon plastic. That's a little bit tougher. And then just as simple as securing it down, and we're done with this. Alright, now that we've gotten the holes drilled, screwed in, battery box is done until we go and put the electronics in, then I'll show you how to modify the battery box for lipos. Next thing we're going to work on is the back of the fuselage here, where the wing rests against the cradle. This always seems to get smashed every time you land and tip a wing end. So what we do, again, popsicle stick, and what I'll do is I'll just take a pen. It's as simple as setting it in there and drawing it out, cutting it, and then gluing it in with epoxy. And this is actually a must-do modification for this plane. Even if you cover the plane, that's still a very weak area, and if you do a hard landing, it'll start to crunch that foam. And once I've added this back there, it adds no weight, doesn't throw out the center of balance, center of gravity. That never became an issue again, and I've had some pretty hard crashes, and it's never even affected it. Now, one thing I do before I glue it together is I take a really sharp knife. Don't let your wife know that you're using this; she'll kill you. And I lay it flat against there, against the fuselage, the flat area. Bring it in, and just take the foam's rounded, and the popsicle stick doesn't want to sit very flat on there. And the key to this is you definitely want to get a nice flat surface for the popsicle stick to rest on the piece of wood. It has you need a lot of glue surface, so you just simply run your knife in, cut it just back a hair, then run it down like so, this direction, and to take it out, just make sure that you do not change this angle at all, because this is what the wing rests on, and if you change that angle, then the wing will be off, and just a hair of an angle here equals, you know, it could be a ½ inch out at the end of the wingtip, and then the plane will fly crooked. Now that we have the piece cut to shape and sanded, take all the rough edges off, it's ready for epoxy. And that's just as simple as mixing up your epoxy again, coating it real nice, making sure to get enough epoxy across the bottom here and across the back, also on your piece of wood. Getting it in there and centered, and once that's done and set, then we're ready to move on to the next stage, which is covering the plane with a coat. We got it into place and the epoxy's starting to set. Now you want to make sure you get your alcohol and start cleaning it up. Once this epoxy starts to set, it becomes very difficult to get off. So the second you get it into place, especially with 5-minute epoxy, you'll want to clean off any excess, make sure you get it all cleaned up, and that way it's nice and clean. You don't have any excess epoxy anywhere. You don't need the extra weight, and it won't help in adding any strength. That's it for these basic modifications. If you don't do any other modifications, these are the ones I would recommend. This will keep your battery box from ripping out. It strengthens the landing gear. This is a very simple modification. Everything is still stock on the plane, and this is a must-have modification. I don't know how many times with my first plane, I crashed and it started to crunch it. By the time I fixed it, I had to put in a 3/8 piece of wood to fill up the gap, because the wing had moved back so far on the fuselage. It had thrown the center of gravity off. The plane was flying a lot differently. So this is a real simple modification, and it'll save you a lot of headaches in the long run. Part 2 will be us covering the plane in Econo Coat.